I'm alright. Hi Z-Pack, it's your boy Z-Dog-MD. We are live and direct with a breaking news situation. We were actually going to do our show at the normal 4 p.m. Pacific today, but through the wire we are hearing now an active shooter situation at Bronx-Lebanon Hospital in New York City, and multiple people shot, and the idea being here that this was a former employee of the hospital, and they are saying it's a doctor, the name Henry Bello.
Dr. Henry Bello was apparently the shooter.
I'm reluctant to even say the name because this is alleged still, and it's all kind of just unfolding right now.
We're getting that off of CBS News, so that's CBS News that's reporting that.
Right, and we're quite sensitive to getting these things wrong right away, but we're getting a lot of messages from people on the front lines who are concerned about this, and we wanted to talk about it because actually on our agenda today we were talking about the shooting down the street from Studio Z that occurred yesterday at a pain clinic, and we're still going to talk about that, but I want to focus first on what's actively unfolding in New York because our thoughts and wishes and concern are for the victims and the people involved in that shooting. And as we start to learn more, we're going to keep talking about this because this is part of our campaign about violence against healthcare workers, and this is not the sort of violence you think about a doctor actually coming into the hospital and shooting it up with presumably an assault rifle, was it, Logan, or what was it thought?
They said, police said the suspect was wearing a white lab coat and carrying an M16 rifle underneath it.
So they were calling it an M16.
Mm-hmm. So that just indicates some sort of assault rifle.
Some sort of rifle, right. Now, all those rifles are illegal in New York State, correct?
They are completely banned in New York State.
They're completely banned. So it sounds like we're hearing stories come out from the hospital of people who are sort of sheltering in place, patients out on the street, all kinds of stuff in the live feeds that we're seeing. And again, we're learning about this as you are. What I'm going to also do as we talk is I'm going to get into our Facebook private messages, and I'm going to read the messages that were getting sent to me privately in the thought that someone might actually send me messages from that hospital or who's in the area, and we can update you guys as best we can. Because when something like this happens to our family, and I consider the folks at Bronx-Lebanon Hospital our family of healthcare people, we need to raise the visibility of it because we cannot be silent about violence in our healthcare settings anymore. So I'm seeing a private message. There was a code red called, and then they went into lockdown. Doctor fired shots at the hospital. Dr. Harry Bello. He was a family practitioner apparently. 4 to 6 people shot. The doctor himself is reportedly dead. Mm-hmm. So this is one private message I've gotten. I'm not going to identify the people who sent me the private messages just to keep their privacy because they're sending them privately, maybe for a reason. What else do we have here? More people just talking about the incidents, Family MD. So what I want to express again is that, and I think I say this on behalf of the entire Z-Pack, that our thoughts and concerns and compassion are pouring out to this hospital. It's a huge hospital, 1,000-bed unit in...
See, apparently he was only shooting doctors, is from what the New York Times is saying.
Is that what they're saying? Only doctors?
Mm-hmm.
So
one report was of a doctor who had been shot in the hand running down the hallway screaming for help. And two have been confirmed dead. Police have said that there could still be more. They're still clearing the area.
Yeah, I mean, guys, this is horrible. And again,
and think about it, it's in a hospital.
Yeah.
All the patients had to be evac.
So it's a 1,000-bed major medical facility, guys. And I want to hear from people who work in that facility. I want you to leave a comment right now. A lot of people are messaging me, texting me about this, which means that we as a tribe need to stick together and have a voice about this. Now, you never expect a shooting like this to be undertaken by a physician. The thought is that these are people who are sworn to protect others and do no harm, and so this is especially horrifying that this is one of the tribe of medicine that's perpetrating this, allegedly. I used to work at a women's med center, and one of our docs was shot and killed. Nobody said anything. It wasn't even on the news. This has been going on a long time. Jessica Garduno. One thing I'm going to promise you, and that's why we were going to go live today to talk about the shooting at the doctor's office, Dr. Neville Campbell's office down the street here in Vegas, literally a few blocks from our office right here. We can't be silent anymore, and the hashtag is silent no more. Share this video, share this idea that we are going to stand up and never tolerate violence against healthcare practitioners again. We just aren't. And that means we have to talk about it, and we need things in place. I've already been messaged by people, emergency doctors who teach people self-defense, situational awareness, how we can improve safety in our hospitals. So there are action items associated with this. We're not just spinning our wheels. We're talking about this for a reason, which is to make it safer for frontline healthcare practitioners to practice their calling. This happened in Huntington, Virginia some years ago where doctors were targeted, but the doctors on the list weren't in the hospital, Sheila Jennings. It almost happened in Palo Alto, California, but it was stopped. The gentleman who was going to perpetrate this action against 3 doctors that he had a grudge against was caught by police in advance. So this is an ongoing thing. Let me get back into my private messages here. Tom, what's new on the feed?
Let's see, we're getting reports that there was an operation going on in the operating theater and they had to, it's fuzzy right now, they may have had to abandon the operation mid-procedure.
Oh, wow.
Because of this situation.
So imagine, guys, you're in the OR and you have to abandon an operation mid-procedure. How unsafe is that? So this is a real disaster, you guys. Like,
where the fuck are we in the state of America that we were going to go on and talk about a shooting that happened down the street from us at the place I take, like right next to the place I take my wife on Sundays for bagels, right? And we're being preempted by another shooting in another hospital. It's insane. It's insane.
You know, I almost feel like there's a thing happening where these incidents are escalating, whether it's due to drug abuse, general discontent, the general commodification of healthcare practitioners in this country by Health 2.0, by everybody pushing on us to do more and more with less and less, the erosion of respect and compassion for healthcare practitioners just continues. And then when we see this stuff, of course, it's a manifestation of that. Who knows what prompted this doctor, who they're saying is a former employee of the hospital? So who knows what happened? But it wouldn't frickin' surprise me, Tom, if it was some kind of manifestation of Health 2.0 beating us down, combined with a complete lack of consideration, caring, or concern for our frontline practitioners and their security and safety and well-being as they work to help others. See if I can see some more comments here. It's a lot of people sending me messages about how it's just infuriating that this just continues to happen. Now, while Tom's looking at more information about this ongoing breaking story in New York, I want to talk about what happened yesterday right here down the road. Dr. Neville Campbell, he's a pain specialist. A lot of the docs that I know here in town know him. I didn't know him personally. I drive by his office every single day to get to work here. A patient, 50-year-old gentleman, walked into the clinic, asked for a same-day appointment, presumably for narcotics. The patient was known to the clinic and was denied a same-day appointment, went home, came back apparently with a gun, started shooting in the waiting room. There were 12 people in the clinic at the time. 2 people were shot, sent to UMC Hospital. My sources at UMC, University Medical Center here, say they're doing well, but can't say any more for HIPAA reasons. And the doctor put a post on his Facebook page. You can look at Dr. Neville Campbell's Facebook post and read that for yourself. And the other staff are safe. One of them injured themselves climbing out of a window, got cut, one of them fell. And so this was a major, major, major event. Now it looks small, even though the gunman took his own life, which is what ended the standoff, right? It seems small compared to what's going on in New York. And the fact that we have competing stories about workplace violence is absolutely insane, as Tom said. We were gonna roll a clip of some news articles locally of what's going on. And now everybody knows, guys, like if you're talking about pain clinics, right? You're going to have patients that are pissed off, that are addicted, that are dependent on drugs, that potentially could get violent if they're withdrawing, if they're suffering. And I think that's what we saw here in Las Vegas at Dr. Campbell's office. And again, this is all preliminary and early, but that's the vibe. And my sources here in town are sort of corroborating that. They also say that, Dr. Campbell is an upstanding guy, and so on and so forth. And so our wishes and concern go out to him and his staff, mostly his staff, because they were on the front lines when this was all going down, and 2 of them are in the hospital. So let's give some thought to them as we see this story unfolding. Let's read some comments while Tom's listening to the live news feed out of New York. The first time I went to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, says Susan Robinson, I walked into the hospital and saw a sign about how guns weren't allowed in the hospital, and that creeped me out. Now, here's the thing, Logan, let's talk about this a little bit, because Logan is a very much proponent of the right to bear arms and training people to use weapons as a defense against this sort of thing. Now, the other side of this coin is, well, if these were all illegal, we wouldn't have a doctor having access to an AR-15. Do you agree with that, Logan, or is your feeling that these guns are going to get into the hands of criminals if we don't, no matter what we do?
Well, I mean, it kind of proves the point. If he's in New York State where it's illegal to own an assault rifle and he uses an assault rifle to kill a bunch of people, doesn't that just prove the point that gun laws don't prevent violence?
And this is my take on this, and I have a slightly nuanced opinion of this that's very similar to Sam Harris's opinion, which is the cat is out of the bag on guns in the United States. There are, what, 300 million? How many guns are there, Logan?
There's one for every man, woman, and child in America.
Awesome. So the Z-Pups can get strapped pretty stat. So in the setting of that, it's unrealistic to imagine we're going to take those guns off the street, especially when a large percentage of the population really, really loves guns, whether for hunting or for defense or whatever, and it's in the Constitution that they have the right to bear those weapons. So in that case, what you have to do is look at a harm reduction strategy. What is a policy that's going to allow people to manage all these weapons? Because criminals have them, but so do good guys. And now, Logan, many doctors have reached out to me, many staff members have reached out to me today and yesterday and said, do you think it's a good idea if we carry concealed weapons in the office? I mean, what do you think?
But I mean, New York State, it's basically impossible to get a concealed weapons permit.
Right.
It's not a shall, like Nevada and other states like that, it's a shall issue, so they have to issue you a permit if you apply for it. In states like New York and California, it's only if they feel you have imminent threat to your livelihood that they would give you a permit.
Yeah. Well, and you're carrying a weapon right now, right, Logan?
I am.
Yeah. So Logan is very highly trained. He's been trained since he was a kid to use firearms. And in Nevada, there are concealed carry licenses, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people locally have reached out to me and said, I would like to have a concealed carry in my clinic now after this event happening. And here's a question. Are we escalating the situation? Are we setting up a precedent where everybody's armed and everybody's on a hair trigger and there's going to be more workplace violence because a disgruntled employee or someone else like that, like this guy, now everybody's going to be armed? Or is it going to provide a deterrent? And this is a discussion I want to have, as well as updating on this. So Dr. Henry Bello says Michelle Lynette, 35. He was 35 years old. He used it, according to Michelle, he used an M16 type rifle, so we don't know what kind of assault rifle it really was. He was listed as a family physician. He's believed to have killed himself after the shooting.
Yeah, I've seen confirmed that he's dead. And I don't know if it's, I haven't seen it confirmed that he killed himself or police killed him, but it seems that he killed himself.
Yeah.
There was a story I just listened to, of 2 EMTs along with 2 policemen who came across a doctor who had been wounded and immediately applied pressure and rushed him through the what was basically a war zone in the hallway, and just ran out with very little regard for their own life, and allegedly have saved this doctor. And I was just listening to the 2 guys tell the story, and they seem like, you know, they had little regard for their own life, and their emphasis was just mainly on the patient, along with some of New York's finest. So I guess there are the very heroic stories that are coming out of today.
I mean, we have no doubt, Tom, that the frontline responders, first responders are heroes. They're running into danger when other people are running away, and we have to support, love, and protect them. And they are often forgotten. They're often abuse is often allowed to be perpetrated onto them without any repercussions, and that's got to stop. Silent No More is not just a stupid hashtag, right? It's an idea and a premise and a movement. And it extends, of course it extends to emergency providers and frontline providers and fire and police and everybody on the front lines acting to help other people. Jan Simmons Foster says, I'm keeping my gun. This is a crazy world. It makes you feel like that when stuff like this happens. We don't even have security in our ER, says Dana Matthews. And I just had somebody from a hospital here in town, one of the local for-profit hospitals, message me today saying there is absolutely no security in their hospital. And people can just walk in and take things, can intimidate people. And now just down the street, this pain clinic. And pain clinics, a lot of pain clinic people, staff have reached out to me saying they're scared because they have patients that are on the edge. It's just the nature of what they do. Addiction, dependency on narcotics, and then those with legitimate chronic pain who are suffering, right? Who are now going to suffer more because everybody's guard is up.
Let's see. Chaim says, we don't know specifics, but not only is mental health not offered to physicians, it's still a huge stigma and considered a weakness among physicians. The physician suicide issue is still, it's being properly addressed right now, and some of them may go this route as well. Basically, he's saying doctors can't speak out if they're having issues. And clearly, this guy was mentally ill. If he's not mentally ill, he's a pure psychopath. So I would probably lean towards him being mentally ill.
Was there a stigma on you, Z, if you're a physician with a mental illness?
1,000% there's a stigma. In fact, I just got a message from an Australian group that said that it is so stigmatized in Australia that medical professionals can lose their license by talking about mental health, personal mental health issues. Now here in the US, we work hard to destigmatize that. And there are many people who get treatment appropriately, but we need to continue to destigmatize mental illness in healthcare workers because, and again, we don't know what's going on here, Tom. He could have been totally in his right mind and just be a complete asshole.
Yeah, it could be a total asshole.
Right? Or it could be that he's mentally ill or something broke him or something snapped. Why was he an ex-employee? Was he a resident there? We don't know, right? So it's all just coming out. But the idea that we need to support each other in terms of mental health and destigmatize it is absolutely, undeniably correct.
Ava Gonzalez says, wow, I can just see it, everybody armed, just having a shootout. That's a crazy idea. More guns is not the answer. Yeah, Ava, but better a shootout than a massacre.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
So here's
we were watching CNN and the lady sitting there saying, oh, the only thing you can do is pray, and we were just sitting there praying and they were shooting, and it's like, no, you can do something about it.
So let's talk about that now. I used to have, like you guys know, I have a kind of a radical moderatism about everything nowadays. I try to see both sides of it. When I was a lot younger, I was very anti-gun, and often because I would see the injuries that happened from gun violence in the ER. We have a lot of gun violence in this country, and obviously a lot less in a place like Great Britain where there aren't guns as much. Now, only the severe criminals have guns, and certain law enforcement, military, et cetera. But the thing is, this is how my thinking has evolved on this. In the U.S., right, we are not going to get to a situation where we take all these guns out of circulation without heroic measures that will be opposed, right? It's politically and logistically impossible. So let's assume now you have a left of center elephant and you don't like guns. Well, then the best thing to do is to try to harm mitigate. So the idea is if an active shooter comes into a building, the teaching now is first, you try to run away, you try to escape. If you can't do that, many people are saying you bum rush that guy. If you have a weapon, you pull it out and you shoot at him because he or she is going to kill you. Okay, so that means that even if, and Sam Harris has said this, if it looks like you're in that situation, if a bunch of people pile on the guy, people are going to die, but more people are going to be saved most likely, and that's the teaching. So the idea that I think everybody's carrying guns, therefore there's going to be gunplay everywhere, that's certainly possible. But what if everybody's carrying guns, they're highly trained, the guns are regulated, and people know how to use them? It might be a different situation. Now again, my own thinking has evolved on this because of the practicalities of where we are in the US. When something like this happens, it's very knee-jerk to say, well, we should just ban guns. Well, but that's never going to happen. So let's think, how are we going to make it work in the situation that we have, knowing we're trying to do the least harm possible while preserving individual liberty? So
Z, we're still trying to learn details, and we're all anxious to know the details of why this doctor did this. But just from a 30,000-foot perspective, do you think the culture of disrespect between healthcare providers, if he was targeting doctors, do you think that played a role here?
Again, I'm speculating, and I don't want to speculate about this guy, okay? But I'm going to say this, like, I've seen plenty of, there's plenty of experience in healthcare where we have been pushed to the edge, where people have been on the edge of, quote, going postal. Either, the bureaucracy has pushed them, their colleagues have pushed them, their patients have pushed them. They don't feel supported. They don't feel like they can publicly admit vulnerability because they're superheroes, whether they're EMS, whether they're nurses, whether they're respiratory, whether they're doctors. I hear it again and again and again and again. And a central premise of our movement and our show and our tribe and our voice is to say enough. We can show vulnerability to each other. We can help each other, we can support each other, and we can build a better healthcare system that will allow us not to have situations where we snap. We are not the post office. We are the healing professions. We are healers. It is a sacred calling. You cannot allow healers to suffer as they are so that they're pushed to acts of violence. This is crazy. Now, we don't know what's going on with him. Let's say he was mentally ill. Why did he not get help? What is wrong with our culture, Z-Pack? We can do better.
Especially if he is mentally ill. This is a guy that's around healthcare professionals day in, day out. And why would they just fire him and then wash their hands of the situation?
We have no, and again, this is speculation. That I love to speculate, but I also hate to speculate in situations of trauma like this, because as we heard with the Delnor nurse's story, when the press speculates or gets something wrong, it is so harmful to the victim. And we're trying not to be a culture that harms the victim, right? So I think anytime we speculate, we have to announce loudly, we're just speculating. We're talking about an abstraction so that we can discuss it, guys, but we're not saying that's what happened here. So here's a comment from Catherine Porter. Sadly, Logan, very few people are trained and mentally capable of using a weapon, even in defense of yourself. Do you agree with that?
I understand where that comes from, but the thing is, if you make the barrier to entry to own a firearm so like incredibly high and require all these things, if somebody needs it now, they have to go through months of waiting and months of training to get it.
Yeah, and I'm a fan.
That's where I feel about
Yeah,
that.
I understand that. I mean, I'm a fan of a good bit of regulation around guns in terms of allowing for good training and support and safety and those kind of things. But there is a balance always. A well-trained firearms expert like Logan, there's a certain
Wouldn't call myself that.
there's a certain safety that emanates from being around someone like that. But even police officers sometimes don't get enough firearms training. Do you agree with that, Logan?
Oh yeah, no, they have to buy all their own ammo. They have to buy their own guns. If you ask them how often they get training from the department with firearms, they laugh.
Yeah. And this is a problem because, again, that means that when we judge how they respond in tense situations, they're not going to be able to aim accurately. They're not, the deciding between a taser and a firearm can get confused. There's a lot, and this has come up, right?
Chris Wilkinson says, okay, Z-Dog, let's not blame society for this guy's actions. This individual still needs to take responsibility for his own actions. Well, he's dead, Chris, and we're left picking up the pieces as society.
So look, I'm not arguing about whether he should be accountable or not. What I'm saying is we as a system need to think of what systemic changes can we make in our understanding and execution of how to prevent this kind of thing that will help prevent this in the future. And that, as a show, we can argue about accountability. I think it's important, but I think we need to think about system stuff because that's what's going to actually help the most people. So Emily Ritter, longtime Z-Packer, very, 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 very smart lady. The main problem with the bum rush, in other words, what I was advocating before, if there's an active shooter, is that it assumes you know who the attacker is. The situations are often really confusing when you're on the ground. It's easy to accidentally hurt people you don't intend to, even if you're well trained. This is true, but Emily, I think the argument is you've spent a little time in this situation. Now you know that this guy is a bad guy who aims to kill people. And you're right. You're in the adrenalized moment, all this stuff. But it's very hard if you're a classroom full of students and you know this guy's just shooting people in the class. At that point, you have very little to lose by just absolutely attacking him. And there have been arguments about teachers carrying weapons, things like that. I don't think I want to get into that now because that's a tough discussion. But there are ways to mitigate harm, and we have to look at all of them. Let's keep scrolling through.
And that's the other thing, Z, is like I think the question that whoever was asking is that so you don't need training just to own a firearm, but you need training to get a concealed weapons permit.
Yeah.
There's required. It's a whole day class.
Right,
you have to qualify.
So in other words,
they go through all the legal.
Right. Yeah. So there's levels of ownership of weapons and execution of the weapons. Yeah. Like I know that Logan's had all this training, so it doesn't make me nervous that he's got a gun on him.
But when Tom has a gun on him.
But if Tom
very
even goes
scared.
near a gun, and I've seen him just kind of pick up Logan's guns, I am terrified, even if the gun is unloaded, because Tom has no freaking idea how to be safe with a gun and has serious impulse control issues. And so when people talk about gun safety, it's the Toms I worry about, not the Logans.
I think, man, it's just, I just can't. I'm just shocked, honestly, right now. Like that we were going to talk about another shooting that happened right down the block, and we're talking about an active shooter, a shooting.
You know what's interesting, Tom, is like I was going to say when I talked about the shooting down the block that this really brings it home for me, experiencing this here, but it doesn't. Like what brings it home is actually a doctor shooting up a hospital in the Bronx. That's what brings it home for me. You know what brings it home for me is when we ran Turntable Health, we had an option. People could spend $80 a month to sign up for our service. Now, those are people who didn't have the insurance option. So what would happen is people with narcotic dependency would sign up, come see us, ask for refills of their Percocet or Dilaudid, and we would tell them, no, we need to get to know you. You need a health coach. This is about a bigger picture with you. We should get you to a pain doc. And we had people flip their lids in our clinic to the point where we had to install a buzzer on our front door. It used to be anyone could come in. Then we installed a buzzer with a camera so you got to be buzzed in. And that changed the dynamic towards the end of our operations where it really felt a lot more like a military zone, right? So I understand that you need to do this, but I understand it changes the ethos. And we had one drug addict who refused to give him narcotics. He threw a fit while his girlfriend robbed a purse from someone in our lobby when they weren't looking. So the narcotic epidemic, the idea that there's no good security in these facilities, all of this hits close to home, not just for me, but for hundreds of thousands of healthcare practitioners around the country and millions around the world. Where are we at, Tom? Any new news?
No, nothing new.
All right, I think at this point, what I'd like to say is, as a Tribe Z pack, we need to have a voice. And Logan, can you throw up the hashtag that we're using, the Silent No More? This is our hashtag. We're taking it back from the anti-abortion groups. But what we want to do really is keep raising awareness. When something like this happens, we want to talk about it, we want to process it, we want to see what can we do better. We want to do a root cause analysis, for lack of a better term. We want to have the discussion, and we want to do it in a trans-political, trans-partisan way where we all really have a voice and we don't judge each other, but we listen to each other. All viewpoints are heard, and we come up with answers. There it is.
You wore a white shirt.
Silent No Mo. And as we close, I want to say one thing: hit share, hit like, message me if you know specific details beyond the press of what's going on that you can share, and we will talk about them on our next show. In the meantime, I want you guys to notice a brand new set, and we're going to continue to improve the show and get guests on, and it's going to be dope as F. Guys, all our thoughts and prayers are out with the folks at Bronx-Lebanon Hospital. We're thinking about you. Everyone on the front lines who's scared to go into work, just take heart that we are all a tribe together, and we're going to support each other on this and be silent no more. Thanks.
Go, 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 go. I'm alright. Uh-huh.